shoulder, so when she stepped into the sprawling, silent mansion of engineer Tunda Daniel, it felt like entering another world. The air was thick with unspoken sorrow. I chewed that moment of luxury cold warm. Mama busy. Britten vergeet Hosekepan, greeted her with a gentle smile, but Amara thought said the sun shimmering in her eyes tall. Well, Tommy, me dear, she sighed, her voice a soft whisper in the echoing hum. This is a quick house, a very quick house. Her first real glimpse of the family came later that day. 7-year-old Zara, attending with her father as AS, sat on a grand staircase, clutching a worn teddy bear. She hadn't spoken a full sentence since her mother is passing a year ago. Amara knelt, not saying a word, and simply offered the little girl a smile. She smiled, to her surprise. Sarah's fingers uncurled slightly from her bear, a flicker of curiosity in her otherwise vacant gaze. It was a small, fragile connection, but for Amara, it felt like a ray of sunlight in the gloom. Then she met him. Engineer Tundi Adenin was a ghost haunting his own home. Calm and imposing, he was followed out with grief. His eyes, when they briefly met Amara's, were distant and cold, as if looking straight through her. He nodded shortly, mumbled something about her duties. Then disappeared into his study, the heavy locked door closing with a final thud. It was a door that was almost always closed. Mama busy had warned her. Her words to forget, but the heart does they forget so easily. Night after night, the mansion was shrouded in a heavy vigilance. But on evening, while polishing the hallway floor near his study, Amara heard a sound that shattered the quiet. It was a sob, a broken, gut-wrenching trail of Amar. In absolute agony, she froze, her heart clenching. Pressing her ear gently against the door, she heard Tundi's voice, rawly crying. Begin the empty room. Busy, me love. Please, don't tell me. He can't do this alone. This year, despair in his voice made tears stream down Amara's face. In that moment, he was her cold, distant employer. He was just a man, completely and utterly broken. Her pity for him deepened into a profound, aching empathy. The breaking point came a few weeks later. A stone rugged outside, mirroring the only inside Tunda. He emerged from his study like a mirror. His face pale, his eyes welled with a pain he could no longer contain. He stumbled into the living room where Amara was digging out, anxious. Collapsed, not physically but emotionally. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands, and confessed everything. The loneliness, the choosing weight of being a single father to a silent child, the guilt that was failing everyone, especially the memory of his wife. Amara did the only thing she could. She sat with him, her presence a quiet answer in his tone. She spoke softly, offering words of comfort. Telling him he was not alone, the space between them shrank, filled with shared vulnerability. When a consoling thought led to another, adding a blur of desperation, grief, and a desperate need for human connection, they ended up in his room. It was a collision of Polanoli soil, a mistake born from a moment of profound weakness. Amara gave him the only thing she had left to give, a piece of herself, hoping it could somehow mend a fraction of his broken heart. The morning after was a harsh, cold dawn. To the warmth of the niggard had vanished, replaced by an even thicker wall of ice. Tundi Kolonta met her ears. He was more distant than ever, his movements stiff, his expression unreadable. He dressed and glanced for the office without a word, laughing Amara wrapped in his shades, feeling ushered as hammered. Then utterly confused, did that naked man untend to him? Or was it just a momentary distraction? Atau to numb his pain? The burned in her stomach, a constant, sickening reminder of her naivety. Days turned into a week, then the sickness started subtly, a wave of nausea in the morning, a sudden dizzy spell in the afternoon. Amara dismissed it as stress, until the dread became too heavy to ignore. Her hands trembled as she opened the small box from the pharmacy. Flopping Linus stared back at her. Pregnant, the world tilted on its axis. Fair, cold and sharp, pierced through her. How could this happen? What was she going to do? She was amazed, alone, carrying the child of a man who wouldn't even look at her. Sobbing, she confided in Mama Bisi, who held her tightly and said the words Amara dreaded most. My child, You must tell him. It is his guilt that hearing a very ounce of courageously possessed. Tamara waited for Tunde to return home. She found him in his study, staring at a portrait of his late wife. Her voice was a barely audible tremor. Sir, ini totally sometium. When the word "siang pregnant" finally left her lips, the air turned glacial. Tunde es Faja, alle the mask of grief, twisted into something ugly. This is pregnant. He sneered, the word dripping with venom. Are you serious? You think you can trap me with this? Aceh, calculated plan to get me money. How much do you want to make this go away? Edward was a physical blow, striking her harder than Anfi's could. Her heart didn't just break. It shattered into a million pieces. Then man she had titit, then man she had tried to comfort, was now looking at her as if she were dead beneath his shoes. The news spread through the mansion as stuff like a wildfire. Whispers followed Amara down the hallway. The couple smirked as she passed, muttering just loud enough for her to hear. Taste lagi di roster all the same. Always have a plan. The other mice were giggle behind their hand. The house, which had once felt morally cold, now felt actively hostile. Even little Zara sensed the shift. On the afternoon, as Amara brushed her hair, the girl looked up with her big, sad eyes and whispered, "Who is daddy's carrot of you?" The innocent question was another dagger to Amara's already bleeding hair. The storm truly broke when his late wife's family arrived. Chief and Madame Adoi, a formidable, imposing couple, descended upon the mansion like a vulture. They cornered Tunde in the living room, their voices echoing with fury. Madame Adoi pointed a trembling, accusatory finger at Amara, who stood frozen near the doorway. "Her piece is the gutter trash you bring into me, Dr. S. Homer. A shameless, gold-digging opportunist. Look at her. You have dishonored me BCS memory with this. Please mistake." Chief Adoi added, his voice booming, "Tunde, you will fix here. You will get rid of her and this problem she has created." Something insane Tunde finally snapped. He had been drowning in his own grief, blind to the cruelty unfolding around him. But seeing the woman carrying his child being torn apart with the Popeye unscathed family woke something in him. He stepped in front of Amara, shielding her from their verbal assault. His voice was low, but it vibrated with a command he had never heard before. "Enough," he said, his gaze hard as steel. "You will not speak to her that way. Amara is carrying me killed, and she will be treated with respect in this society if you ever threaten her or me unborn child again. You will not welcome her. Are we clear?" The Adoi started, stunned into silence. It was the first time Tunde had ever chosen a future over his past. His public defense of her was a turning point, but it was the Amagi Kuri. The tension between them remained a thick rope of unspoken emotion. He was still grieving. He still consumed the good, but now there was a flicker of something else. A sense of responsibility, perhaps, or maybe, just maybe, a burning feeling for the woman who had sent him at his absolute worst. He would catch himself watching her, seeing the gentle way she cared for Zara, the quick strength with which she endured the stuff as judgment. While Tunde wasted with his inner demons, Amara's bond with Zara deepened. The little girl who had been a silent observer began to cling to Amara. She would bring her toys, lay her head on Amara's glowing belly, and even started whispering small sentences again. She could share it only with Amar and the baby. This queen poured love from his daughter began to melt the edge around Tunde's hair more effectively than anything else. He saw the light returning to Sarah's eyes. A light he thought was extinguished forever, and the it was because of Amara. As her pregnancy became visible to the world, a new battle began. The whispers inside the mansion, wearing no echoes of the judgment Sylvatic outside. The class difference was a tension between them, and the prejudices of society were a constant, looming threat. To this total crossroads, they had to make a choice, continue to be held captive by his grief and the toxic expectations of his late wife's family, or break free and fight for a new unexpected family that was forming right before his eyes. The question was no longer about what he had lost, but about what he was willing to fix for, and whether he was brave enough to choose Amar and their child for good. again. Don't forget to follow for more.